Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Corey Chambers.
And I'm Shirley Chan in for Tamsin tonight. It is Europe's biggest and deadliest conflict since World War II. And 1 year later, there's still no end in sight.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says his people woke up early on February 24th, 2022, and haven't fallen asleep since. The U.S. marking the anniversary in a number of ways. Today, President Biden announcing a new round of Russian sanctions, and the Pentagon committing another $2 billion in military aid to Ukraine.
Meanwhile, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken addressed a high-level meeting of the UN Security Council where he tallied the atrocities committed by Russian troops and mercenaries.
Russia has killed tens of thousands of Ukrainian men, women, and children, uprooted more than 13 million people from their homes, destroyed more than half of the country's energy grid, bombed more than 700 hospitals, 2,600 schools, and abducted at least 6,000 Ukrainian children, some as young as 4 months old.
Secretary Blinken also emphasized that a true peace will only happen when Russia is unable to replenish its forces for attack.
Meanwhile, today, New Yorkers are honoring those who lost everything in the war and showing support for Ukraine.
Pick 7's James Ford joining us live from the UN in Midtown with that part of the story tonight. James.
Right, here we are, 5 o'clock, and starting at 3 o'clock today, a protest here with hundreds of people showing up and some still here trying to get passing cars to honk their horns in support. Let's take a look at some video from a couple of hours ago where you had here at Ralph Bunche Park facing the United Nations where Secretary of State Anthony Blinken had made his address. People here protesting the war, protesting Vladimir Putin, calling on Russia to withdraw from Ukraine, and calling for peace on those terms and those terms only. This coming the day after the General Assembly here at the United Nations had a resolution condemning Russia, condemning the invasion, and calling for a Russian withdrawal. That resolution passed overwhelmingly, 141 votes in favor, 7 against. Worth pointing out, though, that there were 32 abstentions, including from the two most populous and among the most powerful countries on the globe, China and India. So there is a variety of perspective on this issue, but overwhelmingly a condemnation of Russia's actions. The same said by some protesters here. Here's more from them. Have a listen.
We have to support with all the weapons, supply all the weapons that we, United States or every country, can to Ukraine to achieve the victory, because as soon as this victory comes, this will end the death, the terror and suffering for Ukrainian people and Russians as well.
Putin regime is it's a catastrophe for Russia. Of course, it's a catastrophe for Ukraine as well. And Putin is actually an enemy for the whole world. That's what I think, because he's a tyrant, and he's a killer. And we want a world free from people like Putin. We don't want our children to be raised in this kind of world.
And again, they called for Putin to withdraw his troops from Ukraine and said as the second year of this war begins, they are hoping for a victory by Ukraine and in that process to see peace. Reporting live from across the street from the United Nations in Midtown, I'm James Ford, Pix 11 News.
All right. Thank you so much, James.
And our coverage of this war in Ukraine continues at 5:25 with a report from Washington on the new actions announced against Russia.
Okay, time now to talk about what's going on outside. Let's check in with G for a check of the forecast.
Well, it's the weekend. That's what's going on. But man alive, where were you this